Before going to the next program, I would like to bring up one thing. Until now, when we have written the if and the else construct, we had a statement something like this. So if condition one, then you open the if block, and let's say you have ix, iy, and iz. Let's make an else block with instructions ia, ib, ic. This is the normal case. However, let's assume that you have only two instructions under if. In this case, you can actually not include the brackets. Similarly, assuming that the else has only one statement, you can choose to ignore the brackets. I forgot to mention it before, so you can keep this in mind for future programming. Now, the problem that we are going to deal with now is the user is going to enter a random number or the average, a random average value. And depending upon the average, we have to determine the final grade. So the grades are as follows. You get an A grade if the average is greater than or equal to 90. You will get a B grade if my average lies between 80 and 90. So pay close attention to the less than or equal to and greater than or equal to signs. Because in this case, if if you get an average of 90, you're an A grade. And if you get anything in between 80 and 89.99999, then you're getting a B grade. And you get a C grade if the average lies in between 70 and 80. You get a D if the average lies in between 60 included and 70. If you get anything else less than 60, then it's an F. I'm going to show you several methods to solve this, and one of the method will be incorrect, and I'll show you why it is incorrect. And this is a very common area where students make mistakes. Let's start it. Int average. Let's assume that average is an integer. Print enter average. Scanf read average from the user. Okay. Now, how would you solve this problem? So we can write the first if as if average is greater than or equal to 90, then I can say printf A grade. So this is an incorrect method, and I'm going to tell you why. But this is what I observed many students doing. So if my average is greater than or equal to 80 and average is less than 90, then I can say B grade. And then I can write another if, which says if average is greater than or equal to 70 and average is less than 80, then it is C grade. And then I can have if average is greater than or equal to 60 and less than 70, then printf D grade. The last one, typically students write else printf F grade. So let me make it much more neat. Let me put the \n. Okay. Now this program you think might look correct. So let's run it. and I enter, oh, this should be ampersand average. So let's run this. And let's say I enter an average 40. 40 technically falls under F category. So enter. It says F grade. That's fine. Now I'm going to enter, let's say 95. 95 falls under A grade, but when you run it, it's going to say A grade and F grade. So the reason is because 95 greater than 90 is true. It's going to say printf A grade. Then you're checking the if condition again. Of course, this fails. When this fails, there is no else corresponding to this if. Now remember, this else corresponds to this if. It's going to check the next if, it fails. Checks the next if, it fails. Now, when it checks the final if, since the if condition is failing, it now moves to the else block and executes F grade. Therefore, this is an incorrect program. And the way you want to write this program is as follows. So if I enter an average and this condition fails, then I would want to check this condition. So I write an else. And let me align it. I'm going to check this if only if this condition fails. Therefore, I write another else. Let me align it. And I check this condition only if this fails. So I'll be another else. Realign. And finally, I'm going to print F grade only when this if condition fails. So this is how you can write the if and else program using logical operators and the ladder. Sometimes it's unavoidable. You have to use a ladder. Sometimes, you can get away with it. And it looks very clumsy. So what I'll do is I will rearrange it. Yeah, so if this condition fails, then it's going to go to the else block, checks this. If that fails, it is going to go to the else block, and then it checks this. And if this fails, it is going to the else block, checks this. If this fails, it's going to go to this else block and print. Now let's see the difference. Enter average, I'm going to enter 95. It just says A grade. Let me rerun it and enter 75. It's going to say C grade. So 75, C is anything which falls between 70 and 80, and 75 falls in between that range. Now, writing the code is one part. The next part is trying to test it. So you have to test your code in such a way that you cover all the possibilities. So you have to make sure that you invoke A grade, invoke B grade, invoke C grade, D grade, F grade. And you need to look at the ranges very carefully. So what are the test cases that you want to check? So first I'm going to check for A grade, which is anything above 90 or equal to 90. So 95. Then I check for B grade, 85. C grade, let's say 75. D grade, 65. And F grade, which is 55. So with these 5 test cases, you should be able to invoke all the 5 grades. However, it's not completely tested yet. I told you before that programmers typically make errors when you're dealing with greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. So they tend to forget the equal to. In this case, you want to test 90, which is on the border, 80, which is on the border, 70, 60, So you need to check a total of 9 test cases to ensure that your code runs correctly. So testing is another skill that you need to learn. You cannot just say, I'm going to test only for 3 grades. I have to make sure that I check for all the grades.